Hello and welcome to the Paper Boys podcast. I'm J.J. Smith.
And I'm Zach Nally.
We're reporters with the Carteret County News-Times. We're joined in studio this week by one of the newest members of the East Carteret Athletic Hall of Fame, Mr. Billy Anderson. Thanks for being with us.
Oh, thank you. It's my privilege.
How's it feel to be a member of the East Carteret Hall of Fame?
You know, it's a good feeling. It's always nice to be rewarded for things. I don't feel like it's a reward for me because it's just, all the guys and the guys that helped me coach and play for me what made that special.
They got you in there.
For sure.
Yeah. Always so humble.
But still, it's nice to be recognized as part of the fabric of the school's history and athletics. Right?
It is for sure. And, it was a special time for us. I guess it was 12 years, and it was 12 of the best years of my life.
Yeah.
So.
Are you in the West Caldwell Hall of Fame?
Not yet. I hope maybe one day I might be.
Well, I'm sure you will be.
So.
When you left, you were the all-time leading scorer, right?
All-time leading rebounder, all-time leading scorer. Now I'm about 4 on the list.
Yeah.
But, I coached there for 8 years before I came to East Carteret, and I've been back now. This is my 7th year back at West Caldwell.
I think if you finish as the all-time leading scorer and rebounder, you're probably going to make the Hall of Fame.
Well, that's fascinating that you bring that up, that coach Hall of Fame before player Hall of Fame.
How about it? You're supposed to go the other direction, right?
Yeah, you would
Come on, West Caldwell, what are we doing?
We got to get on that.
Maybe you're listening.
Dragging some feet out there in Lenore, right?
Northern Carolina.
Yeah.
It's actually Gamewell, which is right beside Lenore.
Yeah. Tell us about West Caldwell and the Andersons. That's West Caldwell basketball is the Anderson family business, right?
It pretty much has been. I think my dad was either the first or second head coach there, and he was there for forever. And I was a boy, so I spent hours and hours there as a kid. And then my uncle was the next head coach that came there, and I played for him. So obviously, pretty special place. And his two sons are two of my best friends in the world, and they played there, and they came back and coached. And long story short, it's a special place for us basketball wise and community wise. This has been something that's been a part of us forever.
And your uncle could flat out coach.
I'd say with 800 wins, you could say that.
Good night.
He's got 800 and some wins.
Wow.
He's really good, and I'm fortunate because he and my father are both good basketball coaches and good people.
Yeah.
Both role models in my life, and I feel like they've helped me a whole lot.
Took him to 3 state championships.
My uncle's been to 3.
Yeah.
My dad went to 1.
Yeah.
And they lost all 4.
I was gonna say, unfortunately, the runner-up, huh?
Yep. And all that time, I played in one, and my 2 cousins both played in them. And at one point in time, my family was 0-12 in state championship games.
God bless.
So,
you mean after your first one here? 0-12.
0-12. So I think we're 1-12 now.
Wow. What was the talk like in the family when you lost that first? It was like we're snake bit or something.
I think we were just proud.
Yeah.
But I don't think anybody brought it up.
Wow. 0-12. That's unbelievable.
I don't know if it's good or bad. It's good. It's good
Yeah.
that we've been to 12.
It's amazing that your family went to 12 state titles.
But not pulling through was tough. And my junior year, we missed it. I missed a shot at the buzzer that would have won it. We were tied and went to overtime, but I had a wide open 3 at the top of the key, and it was. I felt like that was going to go, but it didn't work out.
You were Jock Brown before Jock Brown was Jock Brown.
I was going to say, my brain instantly goes to that shot at the end of that game.
My shot was very makeable. Jockey's was almost impossible.
Yeah. What set it up for us? Was it out of bounds play? Is that how?
It was just a ball movement thing at the end of the game.
I mean, were you coming up the court or had to call timeout? Or
no, we played it live. We played it live.
And you got it up top and
wide open.
Yeah. How often do you think about that?
Every now and then.
And that would have sent it overtime, or that would have won?
No, we would have won it. It was tied.
Who were y'all playing?
A team called Fairmont.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
We lost to Fairmont, Farmville Central, Whiteville when they had Chris Wilcox, who played in the NBA forever, and they lost to who's the other one? I can't. Kinston with Reggie Bullock.
Oh wow! Yeah. So not
There's always been one guy in those games that have been real powerful.
Who was at Fairmont then?
I can't remember his name, but he had 40.
Okay. He
He didn't end up going to a big time school, but he was a big time player.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what his situation was, but he was a player.
And Farmville, that was Jarvis Lang.
I think so.
Yeah,
that was in '84, I think. I'm not sure who it was.
84? Oh no, that wasn't Jarvis Lang. My
Jarvis
bad.
Lang. It was
okay.
But I'm sure they had somebody like that.
Sure, I mean Farmville Central. Come on.
They have the last 10 or 15 years.
Yeah. So. Did it clang off the rim or?
Oh yeah, it's right up the front, short.
Oh. God bless. I didn't know such things about Billy Anderson.
Yeah.
That's something you don't talk about a lot, right?
Tell everybody that.
Well, I think about the shots from that night, their junior season, when you're holding them, and that moment where you kind of what they feel like when they lost that game.
Sure.
You certainly But to go back real quick to the Caldwell thing, and you talk about being a part of the fabric of a school's athletic history. 38 of the 38 of the last 47 years has been a person with the last name Anderson that's been the coach of that program. That's quite. That's.
I didn't know the exact number.
They'll go hit his name in the gym after y'all.
They did the court.
Oh,
The
yeah.
Anderson Court. There you go.
That was more for my uncle and my dad. 'Cause,
Yeah.
you know, I had just gotten back, but
Does it say Anderson Court on there? You just be like, hey, that's me.
yep.
Yeah, you could
People
lie.
ask me that all the time. And
They're like, man, you got
Why not?
I tell our kids we got to win some more games before we can start calling it.
maybe they'll put your name on the scoreboard or something.
Yeah. It's a nice thing to have, but it's obviously not the reason that we're in it or anything like that, and it's not something that we talk about. But it's I'm very proud of my family. My dad got into administration pretty quick in his career, but his career was going kind of the same way. He was, they were winning the league every year, and he just decided that he wanted to make more money and be a principal. And then my uncle was there for 20, I'm gonna say 22 or 23 years, and
your dad still coached under your uncle for a little bit, right?
he helped him a year.
Yeah, okay.
My dad's done a lot of different things. He was assistant superintendent, and then he became the basketball coach at CBCC, which is the junior college in Hickory. I guess he's got a little more talent than I've got because I can't do all the things that he's done.
When you were growing up, was there any question what you were going to do?
Believe it or not, I didn't know that I wanted to be a basketball coach. So I came home and I was working at a job at a place called Corning, which had some financial opportunity, but I didn't love it. And there was a substitute job for the rest of the year open, and my uncle said, "Hey, why don't you come try it, see if you like it?" And I loved it. I taught special education for my first year there, and it was awesome.
Wow.
But I didn't even coach basketball that first year. I had such a long basketball career, and it was kind of didn't turn out the way I wanted it to. It wasn't great, and I was kind of just burnt out of basketball a little bit. And I just said, you know what, I'm gonna just hang out for a year. But then obviously did it, started loving it. I coached my cousin, who we talked about earlier, and became in love with it. Then I coached the JV team for 9 years there with him, and helped him on the varsity. So, I think that's what kind of gave me a good start. Is I was at such a good place, and our team was good, and I was with my uncle and my cousins, and Dad was around, and obviously Mom was in the stands. So it was kind of just been a family thing.
And everybody broke your record at West Caldwell had the last name Anderson, right?
Yep. So I do know this. So I'm 4 now, and the guy that's my assistant coach now, his name's KJ Jones. He played against Reggie Bullock in that state championship. He's number 1.
Oh, okay.
And then my 2 cousins are the ones that beat mine.
But they were the next 2 after you, though. When it was 1, 2, 3 Andersons
Boom,
for a
boom,
while,
boom,
wasn't
back
it?
to back to back.
Wow.
Yep.
Yeah.
Obviously happy for them because they're good kids, and we were all very close. Pretty much grew up with them.
Yeah. Was any good natured rubbing there, telling you, "Hey, I knocked you down," or?
No, I think they kind of know. Hey, these guys are kind of what started this, and I helped coach them and everything like that. So I there wasn't any of that. And I'm pretty humble, and I was pretty understanding that they were better than me.
And just to put numbers to it, when you left, you had more than 1,200 points. Your cousin Dan then got more than 1,300 points, and then Matt really kind of shattered it with more than 1,700 points there.
Yeah, Matt was physically very gifted as a freshman. He was ready to play, whereas I wasn't. Probably until my sophomore year. So
it always helps to play up to older cousins, older brothers.
It does, and every time he played, he was playing with his older brother and playing with me, and then I could push him around a little bit.
That's right.
Can't now, but that's probably an advantage for him, and he's smart enough to understand that.
You go to High Point, then Lenore Ryan, is that right? Or the other way?
I went to Lenore Ryan, so my dad played at Lenore Ryan.
Okay.
Lenore Ryan was about 10 minutes from my house. I knew everybody that played at Lenore Ryan. I love Lenore Ryan. They won the conference like 7 years in a row, and it was a great place to be at the time. And so I committed early. I knew that's where I wanted to go. Back then it wasn't, hey man, I want to do D1 or this. I liked Lenore Ryan. I went there for 2 years, and then I transferred to High Point University.
Is that with just the lower of a bigger program, or?
Not at all.
No?
At the time, Lenore Ryan was probably better at basketball than High Point was. High Point was just gone Division I. We weren't really good, to be honest with you.
Okay.
It was just a better fit for me. Personnel-wise, I was playing behind a guy that I knew I was never going to play. He had the same last name as their coach, so that didn't. I kind of
You say I know how that works.
and he and I are really good friends to this day. So there's no hard feelings. I just said, it's probably not going to be a great opportunity.
But you wanted to play.
Yeah, I wanted to play,
Yeah.
and felt like I should have been playing.
I'm sure that experience, the way your college career went, has probably helped you with kids, right? Trying to steer them in the right direction.
For sure, yeah. And I understand, especially today. I mean, you've got to keep kids happy, and you've got to have good relationships with them all. And if not, they'll go somewhere else. And the transfer portal in high schools is about a thing.
Were you you said you were kind of burned out. Were you just like, I'll be good if I don't do anything with basketball for the next 10 years or anything?
Yeah, I didn't have a long-term plan for it, but I just knew that, I'd done something with basketball. And if you play college basketball, it's something, 4 or 5 hours a day, 6 days a week. And I was hurt. My foot was hurting. My knees were hurting. And I was just, I was just a little bit tired of it. It was good for me to get away from it.
I knew Billy was a ball player when he was down here, and he was playing with Jock and Tyson
shooting
and
around.
Sam Johnson,
Yeah,
and apparently was giving it to the boys pretty good, even at the advanced old age of 30s, huh?
Well, I only had one problem. Those guys were pretty quick. I could hold my own on offense, but there's no way I could guard one of those guys. They were too quick.
Yeah, we doing the old man back him down.
The posting them up.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
No shame.
And those
no
guys
shame.
weren't real big either.
No,
So
they
I had
weren't.
an advantage. But no, and I was more of a guard in high school and college.
Okay.
And stuff. So but I was still a little bit bigger than those guys were.
Yeah.
But I was some good memories playing with those guys. The only bad memory I have of playing with those guys is it was I want to say it was a Saturday, but I hope it wasn't a Sunday because that's not legal. But I want to say it was a Saturday. We're playing, and the playoffs hadn't started yet, and we're playing some pickup ball, and kind of thought maybe it wasn't a great idea to be playing pickup ball on a Saturday, but they wanted to play, and long story short is Sam Johnson turned his ankle really bad on my foot the night we played Saturday night before the playoffs started, and people may or may not remember this, but his ankle was pretty banged up the first couple rounds, and I didn't know if he was going to be able to play at all.
Oh my gosh.
But I felt like, man, that was a pretty bad idea.
Well, I don't mean to embarrass you because as Billy's already shown that he's humble. But in addition to Wes Caldwell Hall of Fame, which is absolute lock, and East Carter, you're going to end up. I'm assuming it's a fairly good deal that you'll end up in the North Carolina High School Athletic Association Hall of Fame.
Maybe that's something that I don't really think about a lot, to be honest with you. I mean, it'd be another nice accolade and that sort of thing, but it's not something that if you're doing what I'm doing, you're not doing it for that. If that happened, that'd be great, and I would enjoy it. But it doesn't matter to me.
Yeah, you're probably going up there.
Well, there's no denying the career that you had here at East Carteret, and obviously by the time
Right.
you're done at Caldwell, it'll be, I'm sure, something else to add to the resume, and a long career of athletics is something that the state loves to recognize for sure.
For sure. Well, one of the reasons you'll probably get there is you've got some time at the state championship level this season coming up. 10 years.
Wow.
Does that blow your socks off?
Well, anytime you do something like that, you kind of want to do it every year, and it feels like it's been a long time because we haven't done that yet. But no, 10 years ago, that was, here again, we're talking about one of the best times of your life, and obviously you think about it all the time, and, if you're a hungry person, then you want to get back there. And, I thought the last couple of years we were kind of close at my old school from doing it, and a break here or there. But, there's a lot of really good coaches in the state and even in the country that coach their whole lives and never get to do those games and don't even get to play in the regionals or even conference championships. So, I just feel lucky. I really do.
And, when you got to East, it was a tough time, actually, for the program.
It was. I think the year before I got there, I think they might have been 2-22.
Holy cow.
Or maybe even 0-22. One of those two. But there were some good athletes at the school. That was the time that Donnie Kiefer and the football team were rolling.
Right.
They just didn't spend a lot of time with basketball.
No, it was all football.
It was all football. And you can notice that first year I could tell, those guys were athletic as heck and could do a lot of things and were tough kids and good kids and listened and did everything that we asked them to do, but they just weren't real skilled. So we did a lot of skill stuff. So that first year I think we might have been about 500 or something like that. But you could kind of tell, hey, man, these guys are getting a little better.
What was that like being an out-of-towner coming here, in the middle of nowhere sort of, and not just that, but coming from a place where your name was synonymous with the school, and here no one really knew you? What was that like?
It was good and bad. The good part about it was if I'm in Lenoir or Gamble or Hickory or wherever, back home, then I'm always going to be Andy's son, Matt's cousin, Dan's cousin, Danny's nephew, and that's what I always, So it was kind of good to get away from all that and just be me. But it ain't good when you lose more than half your games. So, I sit there and, thankfully Mr. Holloway really believed in me, and he kept being positive. And I guess it was about year 4 we kind of got it turned around pretty good. And they say it takes about 4 years of just working to get things turned around like you want. But to be honest with you, it was kind of embarrassing that first year. I never lost 14 games in a year or 15, whatever it was. So. I kind of just had to believe in myself and just say, hey, we're going in the right direction. And we were better late in the year, and that's a good feeling.
How did somebody from your neck of the woods find East Carteret?
It's crazy. So my wife's family has a house in Emerald Isle.
Okay.
And that was always one of our favorite places to come. And we were just, I didn't have Jessica just says one day, she says, hey, why don't we move here? I'm like, sure, whatever. Help me find a job.
It's the beach, yeah.
Help me find a job. And so she had already saw that East Carteret's job was open.
Wow.
And so I called and got an interview and all that stuff, and here we are. she started out working at Havelock High School. She taught Spanish at Havelock. So
Oh.
we were living in Emerald Isle, and she was driving to Havelock, and I was driving to East Carteret. And then we figured let's get a little closer to Beaufort, and so that's how we kind of settled in there.
Yeah, Mariners go 0-23. The next year they go 3-17. Then you come on, so they was 3-40 the 2 years before you showed up.
Wow.
And I think we started out like maybe 5-3 or something. We started out.
Oh, wow.
Or maybe
You thought,
whatever it was positive. Like, man, I've got this figured out. And then we played the conference that year, and they had Topsail, who was top 5 in the state. Jones Senior and Pamlico, all 3 of those were top 5 in the state. Lejeune was really good. So I think we might have won maybe 1 or 2 conference games.
Brought it back down to earth there a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, you go 7-15 and 2-8 in conference first year.
Ooh.
Second year you go 8-13 and 2-8 in conference again.
Let me clarify something.
Hang on a second.
Let me clarify something. That's not completely accurate. Only because we didn't have max preps back then. We didn't put all the stuff in max preps. So I think the wins were a little more than that, but still, no, it was kind of a gradual thing. But the first year, I will say that we did beat West Carteret. So the first time we played West, my first year, we beat them in double overtime, 44-42, I think it was. It was a bad game, an ugly game. We uglied it up.
What year is that?
I'm embarrassed to tell you. I don't even know. Is it 08, 9?
Okay.
I'm not even sure. But those max preps things early on weren't required. So I guess my first couple years, if they're put in there, I didn't do it.
Well, I think this is J.J. Smith research, actually. So it might be max
This
preps.
is
I don't know.
microfilm at the library.
This might be microfilm at the library. I'm not sure. I'll double check on that. It might be max preps. Fourth year, though, is when you under 300 the first 3 years, and fourth year is really when it started to click.
Yeah. So the fourth year, and I remember this. We started out. We were 14-4, and we had another tough stretch. Southwest was really good. Whoever it was, we lost our last 4 games of the year to end up 14-8, I think.
Okay.
And then we lost in the playoffs the first round. But I could kind of tell that it was kind of turning around.
And this is the Matt Collins, Cornelius Johnson.
Yep. Cornelius is somebody, in my opinion, who I felt like kind of turned this whole thing around because he believed in everything that we did, and he was so tough, and he'd listen, and he was yes sir. And Corn wasn't the best basketball player in the world, but he ended up playing college basketball because he was so tough. And that was a year, and I'll never forget this. I'm on the bench, and I knew who Jockey and Sam were, obviously, because they were good players, and I was looking forward to them coming to school. And so they walked by me one time. I can't remember. It might have been the West Carteret game, and they came up and said, "Coach, we could beat y'all." And he was talking about Beaufort Middle School. So, and then, then the next year I'm talking to him, and he says, "Coach, I said, what you thinking about, you want to be on the JV or varsity?" We was kind of thinking. I said, what's your preference? I said, "I think you're probably skilled enough to." He said, "Coach, I'm going to start on the varsity." Okay, so we'll see. And then about third game in, he's our starting point guard.
Well, I remember, not that it was preordained or anything, but I remember you knew about those kids when they were like
I did.
4th, 5th graders, right? You said there's a group coming up.
Yep.
You said if I can just hold on.
Just hold on, and when you're that close, Beaufort Middle and East Carteret right there, I saw those kids all the time, and I knew there was a special group. And then when you add in Ty moving in, and then Trevor moved in,
right?
So
he was a Broad Creek kid. Yep. Where did Ty come from?
Ty came from Virginia.
Oh, okay, that's right.
Yep. So I'll tell you another quick story about Ty. And so Ty's freshman year, I think he didn't take care of some credits or something. Something happened. He was not going to be able to play the first semester of his sophomore year. So we're going to camp, and my dad's with me hanging out. And Ty's mother comes in, and she said, "Coach, if you can help him get these credits recovered, he's yours for the next 4 years." She said, "We want him with you. He's with you." And when she left, I think I danced a little bit in there and held my hands in there. And I told my dad was sitting in there when she came. I said, "I don't think you understand how big of a statement that was, what she just said." And then so Ty went and played with us at camp because you can still play in the summer. And he went, and I think he had about 4 games in a row. And Dad said, "I think I know what you're talking about now." But Ty moving in was definitely huge. He was the MVP of the state championship game.
Yeah. And I remember freshman year, he played JV the whole year.
They didn't lose.
You brought him up for the play. Yeah, they didn't lose, right? You brought him up for the playoffs.
And he played.
And man, talk about, I don't think I've ever seen that, a JV kid the entire season, then only played in the postseason, and then he's averaging like double figures in the playoffs.
Yeah, he was a big part of it. And
Yeah.
that was the first year we played in the regionals, wasn't it? I think it was.
I think so, yeah.
He made a huge steal. We're playing up at Northampton County. I think it was Northampton County. And a tight game, and they were really good.
That's right, he's shot.
He made a huge steal at the end of the game.
Right.
Obviously could be called the game winner.
Yeah.
Situation.
Did he hit the game winner up there?
Seems like he did.
Yeah. I think I
Seems like
remember
he did.
that, yeah.
So, he was a huge part of
I
it.
think I was questioning Billy's coaching ability then when I was watching Ty in the playoffs after playing JV the whole year. I was like, man, where's he been all year?
This is you're just started here at the paper. You're kind of fairly new.
Yeah, I'm like 4 year 5 or something.
Yeah. So you've watched this team kind of take off a little bit, and
but Ty, like first game of the playoff ties, I puts like 14 up. I'm like, this kid's been JV all year.
Where's he been?
Come on, Billy,
Yeah.
what are we doing?
We all make mistakes, but here's what we thought with that group, and a lot of those, Sam could have played varsity. Sam would probably been our best shooter.
Yeah.
And Donnell was, that JV group was loaded.
Yeah.
And we wanted to keep them together and kind of just form something. And those guys went 20-0 or whatever it was, and it worked out. We weren't sure if all those guys were going to get a lot of playing time, and I don't like bringing guys up and not playing them. So
to your credit, none of these kids look like varsity kids,
no,
right?
No, they didn't.
they were small.
Ty looked a little bigger, and he looked pretty.
Yeah,
good,
he did.
But those other guys didn't. But they sure were.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember I did a story on Ty at the end of his career, and because he had played JV that first year and they were undefeated, and then his sophomore year,
that's right.
I think he lost 3 games in his.
Wow.
Well, y'all lost the 1 his junior year, and then he lost the 2 senior, so that's 3. And his sophomore year, well, I guess y'all
just lost in the
6.
We may not have lost
So
since when he came.
No,
back.
because he was out.
Yeah, because he
missed the first semester.
Yep.
So he ended up losing his 4 years, like 5 games or something.
Jeez.
It was unbelievable. Yeah, kind of pays to go undefeated sophomore freshman year in JV.
Maybe I had a plan.
Yeah, he's the funny thing to me is, and then you were telling me about that group coming up. You're like, fine, just hold on. And I remember when you left, you were kind of like, oh man, there's another group coming up, and that was your ball boy,
Yep.
Charles Betheka, and
I think the rest is history on that. Those guys are pretty good. I would have loved to coach those kids. And another group that you talking about, just good kids too. What's crazy? I still talk to those guys every now and then through Twitter or through texting or something. Just checking on them and just saying, good job or whatever it is. But you could kind of tell they were going to be pretty good when they were, shoot, they were with us everywhere we went. I looked at one time we're in the regionals in Fayetteville, and we stayed down there because we were going to play the next night or whatever it was. But we had an agreement that we were going to go to we'd go to the school and have our kids work done. So all the teachers sent them work to do. I look over and Charles is over in the study hall with us. So, and I remember Sam was fussing at Charles because Charles wasn't doing his work or something. And so guys have been with us a long time. So I'm so proud of them for having the career they had.
Yeah. Was Shamel around then? I don't remember.
Shamel was around. He wasn't around quite as much, but he was around. Yeah.
Boy, Charles was y'all's mascot though.
Charles was everywhere I went.
Yeah.
I've got a picture in my office now, and it's my mom and Charles hugging at half court at East Carteret. I put it up in my office.
He's about 3 foot.
Maybe.
Could you tell then, even at that age, that he was going to be a good ball player?
Yeah,
really.
Dang. And he loved it. And anybody that loves it, and he's got natural ability, and had people working with him. So you could tell. I didn't know how good they were going to be.
Yeah.
I guess both of them may probably have a little better than I thought they were.
I was going to say him and Shamel were based on the level of those guys you had.
They were,
pretty much.
for sure.
Yeah. Well, Zach and I have noticed a theme since we've been doing this. We've been doing this almost a year and a half at this point. Athletes and coaches don't remember so much the wins.
No, it's the losses.
It's the losses.
Especially coaches.
Yeah. Do you think more about the state championship loss than you do the state championship win?
Probably, yes, sir.
Yeah.
I can tell you every last game that we lost my whole career pretty much. So,
wow.
This is probably maybe as a coach's mentality is what could I have done differently, or if I'd have done this, would that have helped, or if you can always think back, but losing's not quite as fun.
The amazing thing about that all that stretch, but that first year when y'all are undefeated, is the crowds at East, at Fayetteville, at Chapel Hill.
That was the support that group got was unbelievable. Part of that was because they were good, and they played hard, and they were entertaining, and they weren't out there talking a bunch of junk or cussing or getting technicals or anything like that. And also they had the school support because everybody liked them. I think it's kind of rare.
I think it'd been a different vibe if you had one kid that was 6'8", 200 and was going to go play Division I, right?
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably for sure. And the Mighty M's and
exactly.
I've heard 1,000 nicknames.
It was easy to root for, right?
Very easy to root for.
Yeah. Everybody. Ty's your power forward and he's 6'1", and that might have been generous, right?
Yeah. He's probably 6'1", but no, you're right. And then late in the year we started Donnell, who was not 6 foot. And
right.
So
everybody on the floor was under 6'1".
Except Trevor. Trevor was probably 6'2".
Okay.
stretched. I said 6'3", but he's probably 6'2".
Yeah.
But Trevor was a guard, so
Yeah, nothing will ever beat that photograph of the Winston-Salem kid. I think it was Jockey through the legs of the kid for the inbound pass. It wasn't a big group, but had a lot of heart and a lot of speed. And you mentioned buying into the program earlier, and they played together.
But that's the thing that people don't understand too. Or some people may understand it, but have you ever seen a group that had 4,000-point scores?
Sure.
And 2 of them
I don't know. If I remember I reached out to Rick Strunk, who was the NCHSA media guy at that point. I was like, I'm sure you don't have,
Is there anything on record?
Yeah, and he was like, well, you're right, we don't. He was like, but I think he had been around the NCHSA at that point for
anecdotally
30 years or
never
something.
seen it.
He was like, I'd never heard of anything like that.
It's unreal. And we had to talk a little bit about ball movement. Those guys were all so good that they thought, or I guess they knew they could score without passing. So we had to talk a little bit about ball movement and getting everybody the ball, but for the most part, it was just natural. Jockey wanted to find Sam in the corner. They all liked each other, and they all wanted each other to be successful.
And they trust that if you make that pass, you're gonna
he's gonna knock it down.
Yeah.
And that's part of it too.
And that's with I guess half paid freshman years. Sam and Ty didn't, so they did that in 3 years, which is always kind of tough.
At my school, I think it's 47 years old. It's the same age as I am. I think there may have been 10,000-point scores through 50
The
years.
whole, and that's a basketball school.
And that's a basketball school.
Yeah.
I think I've had maybe 3 since I've been back, but you're talking about 10 in a 50-year period. And we had 4 on the court at one time.
Approaching half of that number.
So,
yeah.
You understand that's a once-in-a-lifetime type group.
Yeah.
Like I said before, I think the thing that made them fun was just even not on the court. They were fun to be around.
And the thing that probably gets them to 2 back-to-back state title appearances and a state championship their senior year is just this maniacal competition, will to win. I remember you telling me on multiple occasions that you ended practices early because you thought a fight was going to break out.
Yeah, they just played so hard. They all wanted to win. I can remember we had, I guess it was, maybe those guys sophomore year, we got that shooting machine. And I could not get those guys off that thing. And they wanted to play, and we played to 10 every time. And I played with them pretty much. And if you didn't win, they were going to let you know. They shut on it. I'd have to beg them, guys. I got to go home some point in time. They just love to be together and love to work out and love to work. So. And
you said they obviously they all love each other like brothers. But you said in practice like Jock and Sam would be like nose to nose, and you're like
every day.
You're like, I don't know if I got to break this up.
Every day. So, and the thing about them was that they were so competitive and tough kids that you didn't have to work on toughness stuff much with them. That's something I've been having to create a little bit at my school now is we got to get a little tougher. And with those guys, it was, hey, let's back off a little bit. The thing that's different with that is, sometimes you got kids like that are I'm not going to say mean, but I'm going to say aggressive,
chippy
type kids.
Yeah.
And those guys were a little bit, but it wasn't talking and it wasn't.
No.
And then it wasn't after basketball's over. It wasn't. I mean, they were. Those guys were the teacher's favorite kids in school and principal. Never seen a group that had that combination.
Yeah. My favorite competition story about that group is, and I'll let Billy tell it because it's such a good story, is the girls making the soccer state championship.
I'm about embarrassed to tell you that one.
I mean, the statute of limitations, it's been like 10, 11 years. You can go ahead and tell it now.
All right, I'll tell you. So those guys, the girls are in the state championship, right? So this is the year after we played in it.
Right.
And
this is literally months.
This is the spring.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, guys, if you hear this.
Half the soccer team is dating half the basketball team.
Yeah,
right?
they were all kind of dating each other. They were friends, and I caught some of those guys secretly pulling against our girls' soccer team because that's how competitive they were. They didn't want our girls' soccer team to win a state championship because they didn't win it.
We're at the NC State field, and some of the guys up there, arms crossed,
Yes.
and because East Carteret scored that first goal,
1-0
against a very good Davidson.
They were also very smart too. They did it to where nobody else in the world knew. So
they weren't actively rooting.
They weren't actively.
Hey, they showed up to support though.
They did.
They acted like they were supporting. But you said you
heard-
asked them later on, right?
I heard some stuff under the breath, and whenever nobody was looking, you could hear them. They didn't want somebody else to win.
The collective, whew,
Man, that's being competitive, right?
It is,
yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, kind of Michael Jordan level, right? Just off the charts, like.
And that's what made them successful.
Yeah.
That combination of things, and we don't win the amount of games that those guys won without
Right,
having that.
especially when, and those, not to say those kids weren't talented, they absolutely had talent. But physically speaking, they did not have the the DNA that you would have thought would have took a team to 2 state championships. And
we got to where when we went to play people, they dreaded playing us. And we played people all over the state. We'd go to the ECI and play, teams from Western and Eastern, everywhere. And people always would come up to me after games and say, "Man, those guys play hard. They're tough. We like your team."
Yeah.
So, we heard that everywhere we went. So that was fun.
Well, one of the unique things about the crowds that were following y'all coming to East Carteret, coming to Fayetteville, coming to Chapel Hill is, man, you see West Carteret people there. You see people from Moorhead. It was not just a very centered Beaufort thing.
And here again, because nobody hated those kids.
Right.
A lot of times when you're playing against a team and the guy doesn't act right and he's kind of a jerk on the court, then nobody pulls for him. But those kids were the exact opposite. They would smile all the time, and they definitely had everybody in the community together. I'll never forget. I guess it was the second year we played in Fayetteville in the complex or whatever. For whatever reason, we came in the gym a little later than normal, or the crowd got there early or something. But I'll never forget. We went to the mall and kind of hanging out just because we were down there for 3 days, and we were coming off the bus, and we come into the gym, and that place just goes nuts. I mean, it's everybody stands up, clapping, cheering, yelling. This is an hour before the game, and that's when something's pretty special when everybody's that involved and bought in.
I follow a lot of high school sports reporters on Twitter, and we're all jaded and we've seen it and done it and stuff like that. But even them, they would be on Twitter. They'd be like, "Man, this East Carteret crowd, they travel. They're something else." But the story that stands out to me was the second championship, and you all's go-to song was the "Turn Down for What."
Never forget that moment.
And that came on at
Probably the most 2000.
and it was a timeout late in the second half. It's like a one possession game, and that came on, and
everybody went.
That place went.
Bananas.
And I remember people on Twitter was like, "I don't know what happened with the East Carteret crowd, but they just went bananas. I don't know what the deal is right now." But
I'll never forget that.
Yeah, I was like, "Oh no, let me tell you what's going on now. It's the team song."
And I kind of felt pretty good about our chances whenever our crowd went like that and our kids.
Yeah, and I was running into the Kinston crowd because that was that stretch with Brandon Ingram, and you all were there every year. Kinston was there every year, and now people we know, Brian Hanks and Zach Fraley, who was a photographer then, they were just like, "Good Lord, this is," and that's coming from Kinston people who also travel as well, and they were pretty blown away by the group that was coming to Fayetteville and to Chapel Hill.
Something that the old coach will never forget. I can tell you that.
Yeah.
Cool.
And the other thing that stood out to you about that was, and I think this is the only time anybody in Beaufort, Carter County, felt bad for Winston-Salem Prep, is because they were from a big city and because it was a charter school. Oh my God,
that was bad.
They might have had like 100 people in the stands.
No, it's and the year before it was at
the
Ding Dome.
Ding Dome.
There wasn't a big crowd there either.
No,
and you couldn't tell there.
Right.
But, no, that was honestly almost a little bit embarrassing. For them.
And of course, J.J. Smith, he's painting them as the devil because they're chartered. They're a magnet school, and I'm on a rail for about 10 years there about that stuff. And then I'm like, God, I feel bad. I've been calling them out for 5 or 6 years now. They don't got no fans here.
Well, I feel bad too because those guards were really young too. They turned out to be really good players. And
how about
one kid
it?
played at Wake. And you could tell they were going to be really good, but they were young. And he made a mistake late in the game. I felt so bad for him. It was we might have been up 2 or 4, and I think he steps on the line, throwing the ball in bounds. We're putting on a little backcourt pressure, and the guy I felt so bad for him because he was probably only about 14 years old, and I felt so bad for him.
Yeah.
But he had enough success.
I also felt a little bit bad because, and you can tell me more about it than I know, but in the press conferences, I always thought Gold was really stand-up guy.
Gold, man, he's a great dude. People kind of put him as a villain or
I know it.
And kind of want to do that, and I kind of did at first.
Sure. Andre Gold, the coach of the Winston-Salem Prep team, yeah.
And his whole staff, and they were all first-class dudes, man. I liked all those guys. So the next year, I guess the year it was Jack Garrison and Deshaun's senior year, they came up and played in the Christmas tournament. We put them in the Basque Hotel, and I watched them practice, and he is a heck of a coach.
Yeah.
He's got them under. He does a great job.
Well, he was an easy villain because, again, the whole magnet, they're a big skitty. Plus, he's this really large guy.
Very large guy.
Yeah. And people were just like, he's a bad guy.
I wanted not to like him, but I caught myself being friends with him. We talked on the phone since I've been back at West Caldwell a couple times. And, you kind of judge people sometimes, but he's a really good guy and a great coach.
I think he said after the second championship, talking about people criticizing us and stuff, he said at that point the school had been around for about 6 or 7 years or something. He said 100% of the kids in his program had either gone to college or the military. 100% acceptance rates.
I believe it.
One or the other. I was like, wow, that's quite a statement when you're talking about not just your starters, but 1 through 12 or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you got guys coming from different areas, and
Right.
You know, I believe it now that I watched him for he's really demanding of those kids, and
Yeah.
you know, even more so than you would think. So I don't doubt that a bit.
Well, we'll bring up some bad memories here. We'll talk about that game a little bit. So I remember a buddy of mine told me after the game, he was like, I don't feel. He was an East fan. He was like, I don't feel that bad. He said, I feel like that was meant to be, because he was talking about the last play for them. They put the rebound put back with about, I think it was 7 seconds. They ended up putting 4/10 on the clock. But kid shoots it from like the right side. It hits the left side of the backboard, and he's right underneath the backboard.
Yep.
Comes straight down to him. He goes up on a rebound put back, and my buddy was like, if that hits the rim, East Carteret state champs. So he's like, I just say like, hey, that was meant to be.
Yeah. So the story about that is you know, Sam hit that 3-pointer to put us up, and I was like, where did he shoot that from? He shot it from, I mean, it was 10 feet behind the 3-point line. And when he hit it, I was like, oh my God. And we called a timeout, and I smacked every one of them on the leg, you know, pretty hard. I said, make sure you block out. I said, here's what's going to happen. I said, they're going to take a tough shot over us. And I said, all you got to do is turn and block out, and you win a state championship. And I smacked every one of them on the leg. I said, block out. And I hit. And when we left, the kids leave, and I'm talking to Coach Holmes and Pat, I said, we're going to lose on a block out right here. I don't know how I had that feeling.
Wow.
I just knew
Like
that was,
a premonition.
we were so vulnerable to that.
Because you're so small.
And I knew that they were going to emphasize, you know, go get it, go get it, go get it. And I'm not sure exactly what, I've watched it a couple of times, but I think two of our guys go and hit the same person and just left the Hollywood kid open.
I got
So
you.
they all made an effort to do it, but
Yeah.
you know, you just kind of felt like that was going. Man, we're going to lose on a tip here. So, and then Jock about hit that next shot was.
Well, then that's as unbelievable as the rebound putback, because you think there's 4/10, it's full court, you're not going to come close.
The other thing people don't think about is Jock. He probably should have been playing. He got hurt really bad about 2 days before, day
Right.
before. I thought there was no way he had a concussion. I thought there was no way he was going to be able to play. And if that would happen now, he wouldn't have been able to play with the protocol.
protocol.
Yeah. Jackie was at about 40% that game, as far as how he felt.
And you could tell it, right?
Oh God, yeah. But
Yeah.
and he still competed, and you
Sure.
know, people probably still thought he was a really good
But
player.
he didn't have a jockey game.
He wasn't Jackie.
No.
So that, you know, that's bad luck. And he got hurt in practice the day before.
Right. He kind of flipped over a kid,
Got
right?
Flipped, yeah.
Yeah.
And there I'm thinking, why were we doing that in practice? I'm thinking, you know, if we hadn't done that, then we probably would have won the state. You know, and we were working on blocking out.
Uh-huh.
So, but you know, anytime you got a small team like that, and those guys weren't heavy kids, and you've really got to emphasize rebounding and being good on the glass. But you know, there's a lot of things that could have went different, but I wouldn't change anything other than wish we'd have won.
That was back in the day of how many fingers am I holding up, right?
Pretty much.
Yeah. And
As a matter of fact, Mark Mansfield was the one that helped him. Mark took him somewhere.
to get checked out.
Yep. And next thing I know, they said he's all right.
Okay.
So thank you, Mark.
And free throws got to hurt you a little bit too, which is surprising how good a shooting team you were.
Yeah, I don't remember the numbers.
Yeah, I'm trying to-
I do know that we were about 50% from the 3-point line.
Yeah.
Which was
Well, again, you can't complain about free throws when you're shooting 50% from
especially playing there. I've
Yeah.
played there before, and that's probably one of the hardest places in the world to shoot, just because the big backdrop and the rims were hard. And it was,
Right.
I mean, there's no way I thought we'd have shot 50% from three there in that pressure situation. So,
You were 17-28 from the free throw line.
ooh, so we shot better.
You almost shot as
three.
good from the 3-point line as you did. Talk about the teams that you played during that run. You had Mike Hughes, who didn't just go to Georgia Southern
Star.
and get a scholarship, but was like one of the best players at Georgia Southern. They had the Coy Simmons kid, who was 6'7", 6'8". They had a kid that went to Maryland Eastern Shore. Was that Tibbs, I think?
Yes. Will Tibbs.
I mean, they're a 1A school, and they've got like three or four, they got like 5 kids going to Division
I think
One.
all 5 of the kids, but one of the kids that shot a lot, shot the 3-ball a lot. I think he may have been their high scorer during high school. He went off, and I think he went to a JUCO, but he was. I mean, they had 5 Division I type kids.
Unbelievable at 1A level.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
This doesn't happen anywhere. It's, I'll just never forget how I'm kind of tall, but all those kids were so tall. I mean, like the Tibbs kid was 6'7", and he was
Yeah.
hard.
Hughes was 6'5",
Hughes was
6'4",
6'4",
yeah.
6'4", but he was a long 6'4".
Yeah.
And they had the post player. I can't remember his name, but he was
Coy.
Is that what it was?
Yeah, Coy Simmons.
He was 6'8".
Yeah.
And I'm just sitting there thinking, man, how did we compete in that game?
Well, as a fan, as a journalist, that game is much more fun to me to remember and think about and cover than the win. Not that was a good game too, but yeah, I'm like you. I gave y'all no shot. I thought y'all were going to get beat by 15 or 20. I mean, the starting center is 6'8". Now you all had done well against Bam, and we'll talk about Bam a little bit. But Bam was Bam, and then like East Carter around him. He was Santa Prep had 6'8" with 6'7", 6'4", 6'3" around
and
him.
guys that could play, yeah,
guys that were going D1.
Sure.
Yeah. So the fact that you all were in that game and that third quarter when y'all just start bombing threes and Sam catches fire.
Trevor was tore. His mouth was.
Trevor had gone over the score table,
his knee was
busted his knee open.
Yeah, I guess that conference finals, Trevor got hurt. I thought in the conference finals we were having to call a timeout so Patrick could clean out Trevor's mouth with blood and put gauze back in there. It was. Most people would have finished playing. And
state championship didn't look like he was going to make it to the end, right?
Yeah. I can't remember what else he did to his knee, but his knee was all swollen up.
He'd gone over the score tables, I think.
That what it was?
Yeah. He finished with 24, and that's his sophomore year.
My phone started ringing about Trevor after that game. Trevor had something those other guys didn't. Trevor has a big old frame and he was a strong kid, and was 6'3".
Right.
So my phone started going crazy after that game.
What's it like when you turn on the TV these days and you see Bam Adebayo, who's NBA All-Star, Olympian?
It makes me think, hey, you know what? Those guys might have been a little better than I thought. Because even in high school, you could tell how good of a player he was. And I remember somebody asking me, why don't you double team him? So I'm going to double team him with another kid that's 5'9", and so then there's going to be two people open. So
that was one of my favorite quotes you do. Is like, unless I could put them on top of each other. So I don't know what 2 5'9" makes difference than 1 5'9".
People don't understand how good of a ball handler he was, how good of a passer he was.
Yeah.
So we just didn't think that was a good idea, but you could tell at an early stage that he was going to be good. Now, I didn't know that he'd be an NBA All-Star type guy, but you're talking about a guy that worked hard and was 6'9", 6'10", and was strong and athletic, and he was very fun to coach. I'm actually proud.
Yeah, I think I get that vibe from East Carter people. They feel like they're part of them is like he's our guy.
He's our guy, yeah. And you're talking about I guess we played them 6 or 7
I think
times.
y'all were 6-0 versus
6 or 7-0 against him.
Yeah.
And his career low in high school was in the finals,
the
regional
final.
I think he had 18 and 18.
Yeah.
Or 22 and 22, whatever it was. It was crazy.
Well, the funny thing to me was I'd be covering the game at East in the conference game. They'd be playing them, and Billy'd be like, "I thought we did a good job on him tonight." And I'd be like, "Me too." And Billy'd be like, "What'd he do?" And I'd look at the numbers. We had just agreed that the East had done a good job. And it was 47 and 20.
Yeah.
But that's how good he was.
Got 2 quick stories on him, and one of them was in that finals game. He made a move, and I think he left from way past the 3-point line. He made like kind of like a Euro step, and he went over 2 kids. Whatever it was an impressive move. And my assistant Patrick gets up and starts saying, "He said, he walked. He's trying to get the referee to call a walk." I said, "Patrick, sit down. He didn't walk. It's just good." It was one of those types of moves where you just don't see high school.
No.
And the other one, my favorite Bam moment was we had a young guy named Norby. I think Norby Henry was a junior and weighed about 140 pounds. And I may or may not have mentioned putting Bam on the ground at some point. I said, I think I said if you got to put him on the ground, that's fine. But I can't admit to that. I can't admit to saying that, but I may have said something in that direction. And I look over and Norby and Bam are on the floor almost in the concession stand at Northside. And so Norby has somehow gotten him down on the ground. But it's another tribute to our kids is, we talk about giving everything you got, and Norby had to give everything he got to get that man on the ground.
Gosh, I don't think I ever got to see Bam play.
Oh, wow.
In fact, dear listener, if you're wondering why I haven't spoken much, it's because J.J. Smith, of course, East Carteret grad, he had been at the paper for 7 or 8 years by the time I showed up. Absolutely, you're right to do what you did. I saw these 4,000-point scorers play, I want to say 4 times total. Before they graduated. And I came on, I think, their sophomore year, their junior year. They were well guarded. I did not get to see them.
Oh, okay, I'm glad
I saw a lot of the Deshaun and Jack Garrison crowd.
I'm glad you brought this up. So I am. Let's see. Let's talk about this for a minute. Yeah,
I don't really know these guys. No.
So I started at the paper in 2007, and so I was at the back end of the 3-17 year. I started January. So that was, mid-season of that season. So I saw 3-17, and then I saw Billy. Billy's under 500 the first 3 years. West is not very good during that time. Croatan has, they've had the Dexter years, but and football was just not great.
Wasn't a lot going on.
I had resigned myself to the fact I was like, I'm never going to cover a good football team. I'm never going to cover a good basketball team. These are the 2 revenue sports. These are the 2 sports you want to, know. And so when West had that good football team with John Lancaster, I went crazy. I was in his office every Thursday saying, "Give me a feature story."
Something.
I did a feature story on the
Drooling.
offensive line. I did a feature story on the running backs who were Thunder and Lightning. I was, oh my God, I went, I covered all the way. We went and started going to away games, even the regular season. I was losing my, I've never been so excited about football. Now that was West Carteret.
Not your school.
Yeah, not my
Let's
school.
be honest.
So then East Carteret does their thing, and I'm just as excited about it. And to this day, it's probably a tie, the best game I ever covered between the first state championship, the loss, which was the better game, and West Carteret beating Havelock in football. So there's no East Carteret bias here because that's right there. But when East goes undefeated, a boys varsity basketball team, undefeated.
A real shot.
Man, we were writing about it a lot. So I don't even know if people knew I went to East Carteret up to that point, but it started
They
becoming a
found
thing. So a certain person at West Carteret who will listen to this and will text me when he hears this started calling me Mickey Mariner because I'm such a big East Carteret guy all of a sudden.
That's
now,
right.
right?
That's right.
On Twitter, a student athlete of the week at Croatan said that when they win the state championship that year, that I'm going to, I don't even know how to talk about this on a podcast.
You're going to be very happy.
I was going to be very excited if you catch my drift, like very, very excited. I mean, he went back and forth on Twitter a little bit, and some of the Croatan crowd started to call me out. They're like, you didn't cover us like this when we were winning with Dexter and stuff.
Sure.
And I was like, look, y'all were great. You went to a sectional final. You were winning conference championships.
There was some magic about this
But
group,
man,
though.
this group is undefeated.
Yeah.
Like it's and going to a state championship. So yeah, I was
Well, and
excited, but
I-
it wasn't. It honestly had nothing to do with East Carteret.
No, and I feel for you because my first year, I started in November. 4 or 5 months later, I'm following Antonio Diaz's girls soccer team
Right.
to Whiteville, to wherever we went.
You went to that was in Charlotte, wasn't it? The state
No,
championship.
that
was
Raleigh,
NC
NC
State.
State,
Right. But they
yeah,
played
yeah.
Charlotte.
But so I
Right.
mean, I'm just starting out and I'm covering a state championship
Yeah.
game, and they score the first goal. It's very exciting.
Yeah.
So
No, I didn't. I didn't
feel
get
for
that.
you.
Yeah, I was 5 years deep into
But
the
safe
job.
to say, I didn't interview Billy very often. Maybe if he went to Croatan, that's usually where I'd see him or something like that.
No,
But
I was gonna. I wanted to see a football and boys basketball be good so bad.
so let's talk about the winning year. Like you said, it's not as good of a game, but this was still you're taking the next step. And ever since you started out as a coach, you're up in the record, and now you'd gone undefeated, and then the guys lose. In the state finals. That was the second of 5 straight trips to the regional finals.
Plymouth?
Third.
No.
Yeah, the
Rocky
winning
Mount,
year was the third.
Rocky
I
Mount
think.
Prep was the first year, wasn't it?
Yeah. So now we're in that third year
year,
where
yeah.
we want to get back and take that one next step even further to win. And what was that like to finally get over that hump to see those guys be able to add that to their resume?
Sure. I mean, it was awesome. I mean, you talking about a group of 12 or 13 guys that you really care about and really, you're working with every day, and to see them accomplish their goals, man, that's what you're in this. That's what you're in this deal for. And here again, like I said it 3 or 4 times, but those kids were such good kids that you wanted prosperous things for them. It was, and we made I guess 3 or 4 years in a row we kind of made a jump, and I guess the first year we played Plymouth in the big Coliseum.
And they had a good kid too, whose name I can't remember right off the top of my head.
They were really good. And I think I was so happy that we had made it there. I think I could have probably done a little better job that year. We only lost to them by 3. I think.
Yeah, they were good.
They had a shot, and I think maybe I was just a little complacent. And then the next year we played Rocky Mount Prep in the finals, and we're maybe a little complacent again. They were really good too. I don't think.
Well, plus they had
6'8".
Deshaun Freeman, who ended up going to Rutgers, and the 6'8", like 6'8", not just 6'8", but like 6'8", 220.
Yeah, he was a stud.
Yeah.
And
I think he had 8 dunks versus y'all in that game.
But you kind of could
East
see
Carter wasn't dunking, or no?
No.
we had all those kids coming back, so you kind of saw it coming, and if all those guys
Yeah.
stuck together, and if they kept improving, that next step.
But
would be
we've seen where teams do bring that crowd back, and they don't necessarily get over that hump. So they were clearly hungry enough to
Sure.
to go back and finish the job.
I can never remember coming home during that time and saying, those guys didn't practice hard, or they didn't try hard, they didn't compete, or something. And that's something that even to this day, it's something that you've really got to focus on. We focus on that every day. So make sure we have a good practice day. Make sure that we're working hard. With those guys, it was never that. It was and I can never remember any of those guys getting in trouble. I can never remember any of those guys making. I'm sure they made me mad doing something, but I just don't remember anything that was disrespectful or. So they had all that going for them because you kind of could see it coming.
Is it unfair to suggest that junior year for those kids was fun and senior year was pressure because you were junior year nobody expected that, and then senior year everybody expected y'all to win?
Yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah, no longer the underdog. Kinda.
Right now the bullseye.
No,
right?
I think the first year we were definitely underdogs for sure, and I think the second year I thought we were as talented as anybody in North Carolina. in 2A or 1A level then. So I think there's more pressure. And then, the schedule that we played New Hanover and
Right.
we try to play everybody that, and then for those guys to just come every night and bring it every night, that's pretty special.
I kind of felt. I don't know if say to feel bad is the way to put it, but I just felt like you all there was nothing you could do. You had to win a state title.
Yeah.
If you didn't, it was going to be a monumental disappointment to everybody,
Sure.
right?
Jeez.
I think so.
Yeah.
And people don't realize that year too, the teams that we played in the Christmas tournament. I mean, good gracious, we played a team from
Y'all go down to Myrtle Beach.
yes, and that thing, there's Division I kids on every roster,
Right.
A couple of them. So, to think those guys went 2 years in a regular season, didn't lose any games to people in North Carolina, it just shows. I mean, they don't. You got to have a bad night sometimes.
Yeah.
So
How about it?
their effort and determination and just character and all that stuff that you talk about, it just prevailed every night.
Yeah, that's phenomenal. In those 2 years, they lose 3 games. One is to a team from Ohio,
Seth Towns, who plays
who just recently stopped playing ball. You should Google him. He had
I
a
did.
crazy college career.
went to about 4 schools, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. And the COVID situation, and he had crazy injuries. Yeah, he literally just stopped playing. And
We
and
lost that one on a terrible call too.
Really?
Yeah, it was he went over Ty's back and just knocked Ty about 5 feet and just
Oh, wow.
fouled the heck out of him, and they gave him an and one, and we lost by 2.
And then you lost to P.J. Dozier,
By
right?
3. Yep, after driving 5 hours.
Who is
on
with the
bus.
Denver Nuggets now, I think, or somebody.
They had another kid that played at Auburn.
Okay.
This 6'4" strong kid. I can't remember his name, but
And then you lose to Winston-Salem Prep, which is, again, a different type of school. So in 2 years, you didn't lose to a normal public North Carolina high school team, which is
JJ wrote about quite often.
phenomenal. Oh, that's the other story I wanted to get into. So the first year they lose, and we're in the media room, and it's like a real thing at the state championships. It's like a press conference after a college game, and Billy answers 4 or 5 questions. I was like, Coach Anderson, would you like to talk about the fact that you haven't lost a game all year, but tonight you lost to a team, but they're a magnet team and they're from Winston-Salem in the 1A division? Billy's like, I don't want to get fined, so I'm just gonna.
I remember that conversation
Because that guy was right beside you too.
I said, JJ, you ain't getting me in trouble.
Yeah.
JJ, not getting me in trouble tonight. I remember that press conference very well.
I think you started to talk about it though after what was it? Voyager beat you, Kestrel Heights beat you.
Kestrel Heights wasn't even a school after the season.
They don't even exist anymore.
So where's their trophy at?
Yeah, that got ugly.
It got
Kestrel
kind of
Heights.
frustrating. It got kind of frustrating.
Yeah.
But I guess I was fortunate we had enough kids, but you just got to get your kids to where you're better than them, and sometimes
Because you
it's
lost.
possible.
You lost to Rocky Mount Prep. You lost to Winston-Salem Prep. You beat Winston-Salem Prep. You lost to Voyager Academy, and you lost to Kestrel. So it was 6 straight years. That's how your season ended.
Wow.
Was to one of those type of teams, and
crazy.
just the type of talent that was on these teams are not on normal 1A.
There was one more too.
Well, you beat Plymouth. You lost to Plymouth the first time,
Yep.
and then after you lost to Kestrel, I think you lost to a
my
normal.
last year we lost that one.
Oh, I thought you lost to a normal one that time.
No, it was
Okay.
Rocky Mount Prep again.
Okay.
But it was at Rocky Mount Prep.
Okay. And Kestrel, like you said, literally months later weren't even.
Wasn't a school.
They shut it down because it had been super shady.
That place was.
Bishop McGinnis.
And then and Huff do you play Jay Huff, who goes to Virginia,
He's
who
pretty
also
good.
is in the NBA these
He's pretty
days.
good.
You know these boys like Jock Brown, Ty Simmons, Sam Johnson. They're going to be in their 60s, being like, "Yeah, I played against."
Gave him 20. I think the Jay Huff kid may have made more of a difference in our game than Bam did.
Yeah,
He was so good on defense, and I don't know how many blocks he
and
had.
he was legit like 7-foot kid.
and passed the ball really
Yeah.
well, and he was a major problem.
Yeah,
And he had a good point guard too, the Chance kid.
yeah, he
played too.
pretty much
Yeah.
was the difference that night too, wasn't he?
So
Yeah. How often do you keep in touch with the guys? How often do y'all guys still talk?
not enough.
Yeah.
You talking about my guys?
Yeah,
Not enough. And then we played in that alumni. They had that alumni game.
just what
we all just said, man, we got to keep up with each other more. We
Yeah.
gotta do more. And people get going. Jockeys in Spain or where he's here and Ty's in the military, and
Right.
we all got stuff going on, but we needed to do a better job of that.
Yeah,
for sure.
well, like I say, this is the 10-year anniversary. It's time to have a
Yeah.
get together.
Yeah, that's something that and I've got. I guess this is year 26 or 25 for me. So I mean, there's a bunch of
Oh
kids
wow,
that have gone through and graduated that I wish I'd kept up with more.
there's probably kids you coached and taught the first 5 years. You wouldn't know them if they came up to you and said, "Hey, would you?"
It's sad, but probably.
The numbers start to pile up, don't they?
I mean, talking about 12 times, or say you got 12 times 25.
Yeah. Yeah. And you said when you left, you go back to your alma mater. You said there was only one high school in the state that you were going to coach at
Yep.
besides East Carteret.
There's only one place in the state, and there's only 2 people, and that's my parents. I was seeing my dad 3 or 4 times a year, and that's not enough. And we're tight.
Yeah.
And same with mom. Mom was a little more flexible with her job, so she'd come stay with us some. But my dad seeing me coach twice a year is not going. That's not going to cut it. So, one school, and that school meant a lot to me, obviously. And back in the got it going about like we want to get it. So that was the only place I would have went.
And we'll wrap up with your time at West Caldwell. Man, you've had some really good teams since you've been there, and I think it's 2 different games that you all have just been absolutely, I'll try to be political here, snake bit in the playoffs with calls from the guys in the stripes.
2 years ago, I think we really had a chance
to win a state title.
To play in it.
Okay.
Farmville was really good.
Yeah.
But I thought we were as good as anybody.
Yeah.
Reedsville had the 2. They were freshman phenoms then, but we had more dudes than they did. We had an absolutely awful call, 2 awful charge calls in late in the game. One was in overtime, one was regular. Our best player fouled out. Now you could have said we rebounded better, we win it, but so we lost to Salisbury, who had a really good player in Juke Harris. But I thought we had a chance that year.
Yeah.
And then the year before that, we ended up making it to the 4th round, and our 2 best players got hurt in the 3rd round. So in the 4th round game, we're up at North Surrey, which is a tough place to play. Our best 2 players play, but they're both hurt. One of them had a torn ankle, and one of them had a broken bone in his hand. And that's by far our 2 best players. So, they think if that could have been different. But, bottom line is we got it where we're winning 20 and we're competing every year. So that's where we wanted to be.
Can't complain about that.
Yep.
The charge call that was it made its way around Twitter. That was a
top 5.
top 5 worst call you've ever seen.
Yeah, it wasn't close. I don't think either one of them was close.
Yeah.
But
I remember that went a little viral. I remember seeing that. Like, ooh.
I helped that one go
Oh, did you?
Yes. Well, I mean, in a game like that, with that magnitude,
right?
Let the guys play.
Right.
And they could say the same thing. Their guy that went to Wake, he fouled out on a charge call.
Okay.
That one really was a charge, though.
Oh, sure it was. Well, Billy, man, congrats on a great career at East Carteret and continuing that at West Caldwell and making the East Carteret Hall of Fame one of many to come. Thank you for coming in, man.
Appreciate you guys letting me come.
Yeah, man.
Enjoyed it.